Senator from Fairfax, Virginia, State Senator, Democrat, Chap Petersen. Hey, Senator, great to have you with us. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving.
John, great to be on the show. Happy Thanksgiving and Merry Christmas, all the holiday greetings. Great to be on.
Thank you. We have a lot to talk about today, Senator. I know you and I agree on a lot of things. I believe I'm going to keep saying it and keep saying it and keep saying it. The Patriot Act is the embryonic genesis of this whole situation we're in. You want to pass things like that? You want to strip your liberties away? You want to trash the Bill of Rights? Things like what happened in Staten Island are the eventual outcome of that. Now, I want you to stay with me a minute.
Yep.
I got this bizarre clip from Kentucky Republican Senator Rand Paul wants to run for president. I don't know where Republicans are headed with this thing. Roll the tape, Michael.
How do we bridge the gap between white and black at this time when these kind of situations like just broke in New York with the Garner case? How do we do it? How do we get past it?
Well, you know, I think it's hard not to watch that video of him saying, I can't breathe, and not be horrified by it. But I think there's something bigger than just the individual circumstances. Obviously, the individual circumstances are important, but I think it's also important to know that some politician put a tax of $5.85 on a pack of cigarettes. So they've driven cigarettes underground by making them so expensive. But then some politician also had to direct the police to say, hey, we want you arresting people for selling a loose cigarette. And for someone to die over, breaking that law, there really is no excuse for it. But I do blame the politicians. We put our police in a difficult situation with bad laws.
Okay. So the $5.80 excise tax on cigarettes in New York City had something to do with the fact that Eric Garner was choked to death by a cop begging for air. What on earth does the excise tax have to do with this?
It has nothing to do with it. I don't know what Rand Paul is saying. I mean, listen, this is not about taxes on cigarettes or whether they're too high or whatever. I mean, this is about arresting somebody and doing it in a way that took the man's life. I mean, that's just error. Now, whether it's an intentional error that's a homicide or whether it's a negligent error that might be a manslaughter, that should be for a jury to decide. I'm not quite sure why the prosecutor, by the way, just charged a homicide or whether the grand jury had an option for a manslaughter. But regardless, in regard to your point, this has nothing to do with taxes on cigarettes. That's an absurd comment.
So I know, Senator, you've seen this video, as millions of Americans have. You look at it, and now there's no indictment, and maybe the prosecutor there should have been options that people don't understand it, but it's kind of outrageous because you have this kind of behavior going on, this culture now of intimidation with many police around the country. This is not an isolated incident, and it just isn't white on black. It's rampant. And so what do you do?
Well, we live in an era now where everything gets videotaped. And so, when the Rodney King incident happened and I was in law school, that was really an outlier in terms of a police brutality case that was videotaped. It was available. Everybody saw it. And that was, a 1 in 100. Now, anytime somebody sees something like this going on, someone's going to pull out their phone and start filming. And so this type of behavior is suddenly, widely available, widely seen. So I don't necessarily think that police have changed their tactics, but I'll tell you, and again, I don't know how NYPD does their training. I can tell you in Fairfax County, Fairfax City, you're not going to see people in a chokehold. I mean, it's just not how they do it. Now, that's not to say we don't have our own incidents, and we've had a couple incidents in Fairfax, and that happens anytime you can have a county with 1 million people. There's going to be someone's going to make a mistake or do something wrong, but I don't understand why the grand jury didn't bring some type of indictment. Again, I understand why it may not be a homicide. For a homicide, you have to find premeditated intent or at least cause of premeditated intent for the indictment, and I don't think the police went to work that day intending to kill somebody, but that doesn't prohibit the fact that if they did act in a way that was reckless and caused a death to happen, then that's what a manslaughter is, and you can charge a manslaughter. So, again, I don't know why the prosecutors didn't give them that option, and if they had, that maybe that would be the charge right now.
And then you have the belief of some, or the commentary of some, that the prosecutor went for the homicide knowing that there wasn't the evidence there to get a indictment on a homicide, and so that's why he did that. So, see, when this kind of thing happens, you get all sides start to think there's a conspiratorial relationship between prosecutor, police, and it kind of fuels the fire of what's happening. That's part of the argument with Michael Brown in Ferguson, right?
Yeah, well, prosecutors are elected, and if a prosecutor is unable to get an indictment from a grand jury, either because they're not competent or because they're not trying hard enough, I mean, that's the type of thing that the citizens can replace that prosecutor. Just like they can replace a prosecutor who's bringing indictments or bringing charges on crimes that should not be charged. And, we've talked about that. So, I don't know why this happened, why there's this failure of prosecution. Maybe the U.S. Department of Justice does need to step in, although I got to be honest, I hate to see that happen where the DOJ kind of acts as a super prosecutor for the police. But the bottom line is where prosecutors are not getting the job done, and I think that's a reasonable conclusion to make from this situation. They got to be replaced.
Absolutely. Common Sense News Time, 8:46 on the John Fredericks Show across Virginia. We're with the man with a plan, State Senator from Fairfax, Democrat Chap Petersen. Okay, the ethics situation in Virginia, a lot of jumping up and down. They never do anything. Finally, Chap Petersen teams up with Senator Stewart, a conservative Republican, and they have this bill. And here's what it says. You can't take anything that's over $100. $100, that's it. $99.99, that's all you get. Seems pretty clean to me. Who could object to this in a post-McDonald world, Senator? What do you think?
Thanks for the promotion. Yeah, no, Richard Stewart came to me a couple months ago. Actually, he called me at my law office, and this was after the McDonald conviction had happened, and just said, look, we got to do something. And to be honest, we didn't trust the leadership of either party. I'm not knocking either, but we just didn't trust the leadership to do it. We needed somebody outside of the establishment. So I said, well, here's what I'm thinking about, Richard, and I typed up some legislation. I emailed it to him. We agreed on some language and agreed to file it and put out a press release about 10 days ago, and we've had nothing but positive feedback. Nothing but positive feedback. So I'm hoping that this is going to be the standard that people rally around. It's easy to explain. It's easy to understand. It's a $100 limit. So, if somebody picks up your tab at a family restaurant or gives you a free T-shirt, that's not something you're going to get nailed for. But if it's an item over $100, whether it's a ticket to a game or whether it's a free trip or whether it's a free meal, you can't take it. Or you can't take it for that portion over $100.
You can't take it. And so if you want to go to the game and the ticket's $500, you can write a check for the balance.
Right.
I mean,
well,
this is so simple.
happened to me because I'm a UVA fan, which is
I'm sorry.
one of the crosses I bear in my life. But anyways, I went to the UVA Virginia Tech game. I brought two of my children. And
you went to that game? Oh, I'm doubly sorry.
University, and rather than take the free tickets, I wrote them a check for $180 to cover the tickets.
Right.
Didn't want to do it, but got to be consistent. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. That and again, it's a $100 cutoff, so I'm not trying to trap people. I'm just trying to give people a bright line where they say, okay, if it's over $100, I can't accept it, and you really shouldn't offer it. This only applies, by the way, to people that are giving gifts to people that do business with the state or attempting to do business with the state. This doesn't apply to, the ugly sweater you get from whomever.
Right. Now this is, this is
a different name, but
people that bring you business.
But that's not covered.
The power in your bill is this simplicity behind it, I believe, because it's easy for anybody to understand. $100 is it. Now, I had a state assembly member on my show early in the week. I was touting your bill.
Right.
And the gentleman said, well, look, and I'm trying to think. I'll think of who it is in a minute. So I'm going to tell you this story while I'm trying to remember who it is that said this. But what he said was, look, here's an example why this isn't going to work. I've got a charity event to attend in a week, and the tickets for the charity event are $250. So what? I don't go to the charity event? He said, that doesn't make any sense. It just isn't enough. $100 isn't enough. And I can't think of it.
Let me break that down two ways. First of all, I think a lot of us, including me, would love to have an excuse not to sit through a bunch of these charity balls, okay? That's number one. That's just political honesty. Secondly, it's the value of the item. It's not the contribution. So if you are invited to a charity ball and the ticket price is $250, but the actual value of the meal and the entertainment is like $50 or $30, then that's the value, okay? I mean, if we go to one of these charity balls, we all get it. It's a fundraiser. A large portion of our price is going towards the charity. Maybe it's a homeless shelter. Maybe it's a school, what have you. But the value of the ticket, not the face price, but the value of the ticket, if it's different, that's what would count.
Okay, I just remembered who it was. Your colleague in Fairfax, Senator David Marston. So you might want to pick up the phone, give him a holler. He didn't seem too enthusiastic about it.
Well,
so you got to get him on the team.
People can vote against it if they want, or they can oppose it. But I think the public people are going to understand it pretty quickly. And again, I'm not trying to trap people, but the current system is a no-go.
I love the bill. I love its simplicity. I love the fact that it's easy to understand. It's got teeth to it. Led one of my companies. We had a lot of people that would do a lot of jumping up and down, but they didn't get anything done. And so we get a lot of jumping up and down. What your bill does is it really gets something done. Now, here's my question. Is it going to get out of committee?
That's a great question, John. I wish I could give you a guarantee. I don't know. I think it'll probably go to the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee is comprised of all the committee chairs, and folks there are not terribly interested sometimes in changing the status quo. I need as much public pressure as I can get. The Rules Committee is predominantly Republican, so I need folks on the conservative side like yourself to, beat the drum. I'm happy to let Richard take the lead since he's a Republican, and I'm in the minority party. I could care less who gets the credit. But the bottom line is I think if we put enough pressure on it and say, look, this is the year we do it, then people are going to be afraid to vote against it because we are in an election cycle in 2015.
Well, I'm
very aware of that.
I'm going to be your cheerleader for that. You and Senator Stewart, cats and dogs, living together. It's a beautiful thing to see. My concern is getting it out of committee, because if it doesn't get out of committee, it can just die there. If it gets out of committee, then I'd love to see the debate and the people voting no and what their reason is.
Well, what may happen, and I'll give you a preview, is it might get watered down in committee, and I won't object to that, and I'll let it get to the floor, and then I'll put on a floor amendment, and I'll force the whole Senate to take a vote on the original bill, that's all I want. I just want to vote.
Okay, well, I just got a text. You just picked up a supporter in the lower chamber, House of Delegates member from Virginia Beach, Scott Taylor, texted me and said,
welcome aboard, Scott.
He said, I like his bill. There you go, right there. So right on your show, you just picked up an influential House of Delegates member, Scott Taylor from Southeast Virginia, so you might have to get him involved. Let's see, 8:56. Oh, my goodness, I got a minute and a half, and we haven't talked about the Deadskins. What are you guys going to do?
I was afraid of that.
Well, first of all, the UVA Virginia Tech game, how you can get the go-ahead touchdown and let Virginia Tech, who hadn't moved the ball for 59 minutes, go down the field in 30 seconds is beyond me. I don't have time for that.
Yeah,
so
that's a different tragedy.
Let's get to the Deadskins. What are you guys going to do with RG3?
I don't know. I wish things would have worked out better for Robert. We'll see how well Colt can do down the stretch. Maybe we could pick up a couple wins. You got to play every game to win. I'm sure the guys know that. And we'll just have to evaluate at the end of the year. I mean, we've got three quarterbacks, and who knows which one is going to be the starter.
All right, we're out of time. I got to take off.
Robert probably will not be here next year, but who knows?
I got to take off. I'm out of time. I want to thank Senator Chap Petersen for being with us. Chap, Redskins stink. The Titans stink. It all stinks. I'm sick of the whole thing. But we're going to get a higher draft pick, so that's our good news.